It's time to get things started on the most sensational, inspirational, celebrational, situational. This is what we call the Dynasty.
An all-star fantasy football experience.
Welcome to the Dynasty Podcast. I am Commissioner Eric Costanza, and co-hosting most of the show here with me is coach of the Yoy Soy Fiesta, Coach Derek Mello. Derek, thank you for co-hosting with me. Is there anything, on your mind in regards to the league, the NFL, really anything in general that you'd like to, talk about here together with the league?
Yeah, actually, I have one quick thing I wanted to bring up, and that is the Yankees do, in fact, suck. Thank you.
Yes, in fact, they do. What a ridiculous... so we're recording this on Wednesday. I'm not sure when the show will get out, but last night was, Game 4, and I definitely lost a couple of years of my life watching Craig Kimbrell almost blow it, but everything's going to be okay.
Yes. It's all good. We're back into football now, so we're good.
Indeed. So scoring, especially passing yards and passing touchdowns, are very much up in the NFL this year, but it's funny because it's not really translating much in the dynasty. I don't want to say it's like low scoring so far, but it's kind of, pretty much just standard scoring, I would say. I don't think we've seen any crazy point totals or any low point totals, so I think a lot of that may have to do with the fact that 4 out of the 5 weeks so far, the top scoring player in fantasy was either not rostered or benched, which is a weird conundrum. What do you think about that?
It's super weird. I mean, it's, first off, shame on me because Patrick Mahomes, my Brady boner, I start Brady every week, and I really should have been starting him for a couple of those weeks there, so now it's really more of a matchup thing. Yeah, it's insane. I mean, I have not ever seen more players that are putting up crazy, ridiculous numbers that are not on teams. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. When it was happening at first, I just assumed it was more of a, unique, oh, that's cute. Like, that's not going to happen, more than maybe 2 or 3 times during the year. But it was just weird. I mean, it happened the first 4 weeks. Last week was the first week. I think it was Aaron Rodgers who, but so I don't know. It's just a weird little nugget there. One of the other kind of main topics in the NFL right now is the roughing the passer, where you essentially need to gently place the quarterback down to the ground, pat him onto the forehead, make sure he's okay in order to not get a flag. Have you seen the Clay Matthews situation, Derek? And what are your thoughts on that?
I'm still waiting for Clay Matthews to hit him because I haven't seen him hit him yet, so I'm still waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, it's
quite possibly one of the worst calls I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, they really should be playing flag football at this point.
Yeah, I think that's where we're headed. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. I can kind of understand it to a certain extent. Obviously, offense, points, protecting the main guys, the quarterbacks are, super important. But there's got to be a little bit of a line to, that you don't want to cross. And I think that first penalty that Matthews had was utterly ridiculous. The second one, I actually kind of could understand it, but it's...
I think the second one was a little more justifiable, but the first one was, just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, right. So in the league this year, obviously things are interesting. I have to say, for me as commissioner, and I know, Derek, you're been helping me out a little bit behind the scenes as well. You're obviously part of the trading committee. You're now kind of a bit of a veteran player here in the league, which is great. Things have been drama-free, which I have to say I personally and selfishly love. Obviously, we have a lot of new coaches this year. Essentially, half the league is new. Everyone's kind of getting their feet wet, and not only them playing with us in the league, but also us playing with them as well. How do you think that's gone in the league so far? I mean, by now we would have probably typically had at least 3 arguments, 2 people asking to, impeach me, at least a couple of offended things happening. I mean, is that good or bad that that's not happening in your opinion?
I think I got to tell you, I've had a lot more fun this year because of the drama. Oh God, how is somebody going to react to X, Y, or Z? Or, what are we making up this week? It's been great. It's been nice. It's been refreshing. It's been fun. I'm really impressed actually with the new owners. I mean, they made some savvy draft picks. Trades that we've seen going through so far all look pretty good. I mean, I think everybody's been a really good addition to the league. I'm really excited about it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll echo that. And speaking of the new coaches, we're kind of getting into the point of the season where, teams are we got an I know we'll kind of get to this, but we have an 0-5 team in Make America Gronk Again. There's a couple of 1-4 teams, so it still may be a little bit early, but either now or soon, I would think that, if someone drops to 0-6, 0-7, considering no one's ever won the championship after losing the first week of the season, just going 0-1. And then I think there was some other stat where only like 4 or 5 teams in the history of the league even just made the playoffs starting 0-2. Again, these are trends and stats that certainly will be broken someday, but I would think that eventually, some of these teams are going to be maybe looking to sell and try to rebuild for the future. That's one of the little, I would think, good things about this league is, you're kind of owning your franchise and you're able to, rebuild and try to restock for next year, as you did this particular year, Derek. So, but that being said, I know that is hard for new coaches to completely comprehend and to try to understand the value of draft picks and things like that. I guess I don't want it to always be me because I do have some communication behind the scenes and maybe even some in person with some of the guys, where we talk a little bit. But I don't want it to always be me because, who's to say I'm right? So, Derek, if you could, if you're maybe just specifically talking to maybe some of the new coaches in the league, without telling them obviously what to do, but what would be just some advice that you have in regards to, if they feel as if their team is out of it completely, or the chances are greatly, not in their favor. What are your what's your advice for them?
Yeah, my advice honestly is to kind of start to build. I feel like I'm the Philadelphia 76ers here and trust the process. You have to set up a process where, each year you're collectively grabbing some better and some more draft picks. And then, there might be a year or two where you're turning those draft picks into, future draft capital yet again. Unfortunately, I think there's a couple teams in our league, and I know we're going to go through some power rankings a little bit later that don't have a lot to trade, but, I think it's maximizing the trade value, making sure that you get some future assets, while the future assets are to be gotten. A lot of times, somebody will make a big trade early in the season and trade a bunch of draft picks, and then those draft picks aren't available anymore. So
yeah,
you don't want to be left at the end of the year. Your middle tier players that might be valuable to a contending team are really going to mean next to nothing for you. So
yeah,
maximize while you can.
Right. Well said. Again, everybody plays for different reasons. There may be a coach out there that, they just wanna enjoy themselves from a week to week basis and win, have a good chance at winning each week, even if maybe they think they're out of the playoff contention. And if that's the case, so be it. That's perfectly fine. But me personally, and it sounds like maybe you as well, I think one of the worst things you could do in this particular league is, miss the playoffs and not be in at least decent shape next year. It's almost like, all right, either, of course, there's examples, and there have been many in the past where you're kind of on the bubble, you're competing to get in, and you don't get in, and then you're kind of left with down picks next year as well. That happens. But if you're maybe one of those teams that it's pretty obvious that you may not have what it takes this year, I've done it before, you've done it, I know many of others have done it. Hell, I would trade everything you can to get whatever you can for the future and to try to increase your chances, next year or whatever. But again, everyone has their own opinion with that. So let's talk a little bit about your team, Derek. So obviously you're in a good spot. You came into this season and one of the better chances, one of the favorites. You're 4-1. Actually, your only hiccup was courtesy of my team. You and I are at the top of the North right now. I think you have the top receiving in the league. I think you have and it's actually impressive because I believe you're I think you're third as far as toughest schedule. So you're doing it, against harsh competition. You got to be happy where your team is right now.
Yeah, very happy. I think I have a couple moves that I still need to make, a couple depth maneuvers and things like that. But yeah, I'm liking where I'm sitting right now. I think I'm in a pretty good spot.
Excellent. And any questions? Any questions for me about my team or anything that you wanna? I want to kind of point this back to you.
I get it. I mean, not to make this a horn-blowing session or anything along those lines, but I mean, how in God's name are you doing it? Like James Conner, where are we? What? I am so impressed with what you have gotten out of your running backs this year. Where you are sitting and where you are right now, it's been pretty impressive. So kudos to you as well.
Well, it's weird because obviously I thought that my running backs were going to be the absolute strength of my squad heading into the season, having Dalvin Cook and Saquon Barkley and Le'Veon Bell. And it turns out, I mean, Barkley's been awesome. Cook's been pretty disappointing. He had a couple of okay weeks the first few weeks, but other than that, he's been either hurt or not really too good. And obviously, we know what's going on with Le'Veon. And I'm glad that I drafted guys like Carlos Hyde in the mid rounds. Obviously, James Conner later on in the draft has been huge for me. So Jamal Williams has been a bit of a bust. Actually, I just recently dropped his ass. But I'm pretty happy. And I mean, guys like Will Fuller and Cooper Kupp later on too. I mean, I'm happy where I am, knowing that hopefully Bell is coming back. Hopefully Cook turns around and things actually get better for me versus worse. So. We'll see, but that's enough. You're right. That's enough about you and I. We touched upon that. Let's get into the rest of the league doings here. And on this show, we're going to look back at the first few weeks of the season. We're going to power rank the league. We're going to look ahead to next week, and we're going to talk to some coaches later on in the show and kind of get their perspective on things as well. So let's go. Let's do this shit.
Now let's take a look into last week's results. Who kicked some ass? Who sucked?
All right, so we've completed 5 weeks, and instead of just focusing on what happened last week in the league, I mean, this is the first show we've had since the draft, really. So, anything that stands out to you in the first 5 weeks, Derek, as far as close games or teams that maybe could be in a different position if one thing went the other way. Any high, maybe even your own games. Any highlights from the first few weeks of the season?
Yeah, there's been a couple teams that I'm unbelievably surprised to see where they are. I think your team is one that has definitely trended a lot better than I thought. Val Venus might be the greatest 1-4 team in the history of 1-4 teams right now. And his team is stacked. He has so many players. I think I would think he's had a pretty difficult strength of schedule so far this year. I haven't looked at that, but
he does. He has the hardest. You're right. He has the hardest schedule thus far. And I mean, it's crazy that he's 1-4. With you look at his roster and you think obviously he has just as good as anyone else. But such is fantasy. And then Make America Gronk again. Again, they're 0-5, but those first 2 games they lost by like a combined 2 points. I mean, they could very well be 2-3, even 3-2 right now, and in a completely different spot. But instead, they're sitting at 0-5. And I actually spoke with one of the coaches, Coach Danielle, and she had mentioned how they're not quite yet in selling mode, but they're hoping to eke out a win or two and see what happens, which is admirable. But you never, it's one little yard. That's all it takes sometimes. So you never know the difference between a win and a loss. All right. Well, I think that covers the first 5 weeks. We're gonna dip a little bit more into each team in the next segment. So let's do it.
The Power Rankings. Hey, hey, hey. Who's number 1? Hey, hey. Who's sucking ass? The Dynasty Dynasty Power Rankings.
Okay, so let's talk about the power rankings. Now, Derek, we know, and I think the league now knows at this point, that CBS robots like to send out not only the weekly little update that we get, but also little power rankings, which is a soulless, completely robotic math that they basically do. We, on the other hand, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, we do have souls. So that being
Yep, I do. Yep.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of hand off to you, if you will, and I'm going to let you, Derek, kind of take this. I'll kind of chime in. I've asked you to kind of put together a little power rankings as to where we're at heading into out of the first third of the regular season. So I'll go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Mr. Commissioner. I'm standing on my Nintendo Power Pad, eating a power bar and drinking Powerade, so I feel that my power rankings should be quite powerful. I have ranked everyone from 12 to 1, 12 being the team that quite possibly should, think about fantasy baseball for next year. And number 1, who I expect is right now in the what I would call the proverbial catbird seat of the league. With number 12, I have Golden Taint and Mr. Andrew LaChapelle. The only advice I have for him is trade T.J. Yeldon now, while you can still get something for T.J. Yeldon, and that I like pepperoni pizza when you're buying pizza next year.
Yeah, that's an interesting last, in the power rankings, though I don't disagree. It's, make America Gronk again, as we talked about, is 0-5. But maybe you look at their rosters, maybe you look at some of the close games, and maybe that kind of factors in. Golden Taint does have a win, and actually they've been putting up a decent amount of points. So I don't know if I would actually have them last. I would definitely have them close to last. But hey, I can understand it.
Yeah. So you did just mention who number 11 is. So that would be Make America Gronk again. Outside of Marshawn Lynch, I kind of looked at this from the perspective of if I were to pillage your team, who would I pillage? And I saw Marshawn Lynch, and I said, oh, that's an interesting one. And that was about where my interest stopped.
Yes.
So I would say, get something for Lynch while you can, and hope for the best.
Fair enough. Number 10.
Milltown Killers.
Yeah. Things have just been on a complete and utter downhill after week 1. Yeah, he came out hot, and since then, got nothing. Yeah,
Tyreek Hill is, that's a nice piece. That's a really cool piece to have, but I don't know. There wasn't a lot of great things to say about Milltown Killers.
Yeah. Though that is a team. I think that you mentioned Tyreek Hill. I mean, he's got Keenan Allen. He's got Kershawn Johnson. Williams? Yeah. So anyway, he has guys, that are intriguing, but he sitting at 1-4, not a lot of points scored, not looking good.
No. So my number 9 team is the best 1-4 team in maybe the history of our league, where I like to call this the king of the 9-pointers, and that would be Val Venus, who just seems like every guy on the team is going to put up 9 points every week. Yeah,
it's very got to be disappointing for him coming into the league this year. One of the favorites as well. Right there, really with you, and hasn't really been able to put it together. But he goes on a 3, 4, 5, 6 game run, and he's right there. So still early, but not that early anymore.
Right. What has happened to David Johnson? I mean, is he on the side of a milk carton somewhere? What is the deal with that guy?
Yeah, I think Arizona is using him horrifically. They're starting to use him a little bit better recently. The guy is incredible, and he should be basically that entire offense. He's not involved in the passing game enough, and the Cardinals suck, so they're not going to score a lot. It's got to be disappointing. Who do you got?
Number 8 spot, I have the Blue Breezian Senator. I'm sorry, excuse me, the Rockdalian Senators.
Yeah,
who have been riding the Drew Brees coattails to their early season success.
yeah. So was that number 7? Sorry, I lost track.
No, I'm sorry, it was number 8.
Number 8. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, that's actually a little. I figured he'd be a little bit higher in the rankings. That's for me personally. He's lost his last 2 games. We're gonna actually talk to Coach Will a little bit later on in the show, so we'll get a little bit more insight there. But you just feel. I mean, he has the number. He actually has the best passing attack in the league between Matty Ryan and Drew Brees. Obviously, he's using Brees, but I think this week he'll have to use Ryan with Brees being on a bye. I think he's in the top 3 with his rushing. But now that Mark Ingram came back, who he has Alvin Kamara. I wonder if he's going to start them both normally, or he's going to kind of pick and choose how that's going to work. I'll have to ask him later. But yeah, okay, fair enough.
You know, and my number 7. So this is my team sitting on the outside looking in, and as we're starting to get into the playoff picture, I have the Coach Dave with the Donald Palmers.
Yeah, he has a decent amount of points scored though.
He does.
Yeah,
and that's a good. I just feel like. First, I feel it's tough because he's in an extremely tough division. So he's got to play you and I a couple times.
Yeah.
And that's difficult. I think he's got a good squad. He's got a couple of really good pieces on his team, but it's just, I don't know. The playoffs, I think it's going to be if he makes playoffs, I would say that is a big success.
Sure. Yeah, Melvin Gordon has been remarkable, but there's a couple of pieces missing on his team, and it very well could be, a free agent pickup or two, a guy decide, an injury or two, or a trade or two, and things could be different. Right now, I think I'm right there with you on Donald Palmer, kind of one of those teams that's right there in the thick of things, but may not have exactly everything that they need in order to get over that hump. So we're now at number 6 now, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Number 6, and this is one of my surprise teams. The Boston Loggers.
Wow.
Playing, got some really good pieces. Ben clearly knows what he's doing. Probably my early 2019 favorite just because, I know I've traded some draft picks.
Yep.
So I know he's in, he's going to be in good shape there. But, I think right on the cusp of the playoffs here too, a couple moves here or there. And, we could be talking playoffs this year and favorite maybe for next year type thing.
Yeah, I know I've reached out to him in regards to a few players on his team, and yeah, he's definitely, standing pat right now, which I don't blame him to compete. I'm actually surprised a little bit to have him higher than like a Senators and a Donald Palmer. But again, this is our personal opinions with the power rankings, and he's in a good place for next year as of right now with a couple of picks that he got from you, and he's competing right now. So good stuff from Ben. So now we're headed into the top 5, which is so in other words, kind of the teams that you would maybe be predicting to make the playoffs, the top 5 teams. So who do we got at number 5?
Number 5, I got the Jive Turkeys. Todd Gurley Central here, who might have the worst 4-1 team if Val Venus is the worst 1-4 or the best 1-4 team, he might be the worst 4-1 team.
I did kind of mention in my weekly analysis that I think I predicted him to win another low scoring game, and then he went out and scored the most points he's ever scored, and kind of made me look bad. But yeah, in general, his team, and I'm sure we're actually going to talk to Coach Greg later on as well, so we can talk more about him about this with him. But you look at his team on paper, and it's not terrible by any means, but you don't see a 4-1 team either. But such is fantasy. Number 4.
Number 4, Mr. Primetime. He hate me. Good, a good team, a good solid team. I think top to bottom. Not a great team, but a good team. But I got to say that's great for bye weeks. That's great for whereas somebody like the Jive Turkeys, they have a lot of eggs in the Todd Gurley basket. Mr. Primetime, not a lot of eggs, need to be in any certain basket. Pretty well spread out, pretty well scoring team.
Yeah, he's also been the benefit of the second easiest schedule so far, but he does seem to have a pretty well balanced team. He's made a couple of moves as well, and I think so far that DeAndre Hopkins Antonio Brown trade, it looks to be a pretty good move. I mean, both Brown and Hopkins are studs, but Hopkins been. I have to look it up, but I think he may be outperforming Brown as of right now, and plus he got an extra pick, so that looks to be pretty good so far.
Yep, I would agree.
Yeah, actually, Hopkins is the 5th best receiver in the league so far, and I think Brown is somewhere in the 6, 7, 8 range. So I think, don't quote me on that. I have to look that up.
That's right.
But anyway.
Yeah, that's a good trade. That was a good trade.
Yeah. Number 3?
Virginia Beach. Paul.
Yeah.
Might have the best running back crew, I think. A very strong running back crew. Also, really good wide receivers as well too. I think definitely a team that a tweak here, a tweak there, we could be talking Dynasty goal.
Yeah, I know. Paul feels this because he informed me when he sent me his contender pretender votes that he feels he's going to overtake Jive Turkeys in the Central. He's only he's 3-2. Jive Turkeys is 4-1. So he feels strongly that this is his division and he's going to take it. So obviously you probably feel the same way having him over Turkeys as the 3rd-ranked team right now.
Yeah, I love the confidence. That's good. I like that confidence.
So the final 2 rankings, oh my goodness, they just so happen to be the people currently co-hosting this show. Go ahead and take it away.
This is not intentional, and I'm certainly not trying to once again toot our own horns too. But I do have myself as the 2nd best team right now.
Wow. I think you're being a little humble there. I know I beat you, but you have a little bit more points than I do, and man, your team is a juggernaut. I like my team, but I gotta. Maybe we're both being humble with each other. We're trying to reverse jinx each other, aren't we?
I think so. Yeah, I think we might be. I think my lack of running back depth is gonna catch up with me at some point, and the fact that I cannot seem to find a tight end who can score a decent amount of points. And Jimmy Graham is just like God. I mean, talk about a guy I want to take behind the woodshed.
Yeah, he's a kind of a touchdown or bust guy. I had him last year, so So I guess that leaves me as number 1.
It does, and the reason for my number 1 is I feel like you have already swung 2 deadline deals. The Dalvin Cook, Le'Veon Bell. They both should be pretty much added to a team that's already scoring pretty well. Le'Veon Bell, probably one of the best running backs in fantasy. I think he as long as he comes back with his head scoring, I think he should be in pretty good shape. I think once again you're gonna have a tough time though because you do have me in your division.
Yeah.
We're obviously all just an injury or so away. But I know you'll make a couple tweaks here or there to kind of get yourself over the hump as well.
Yeah, the whole Bell thing has been completely driving me nuts. I've gone back and forth, wanting to trade him, wanting to just hang on to him. Obviously, I liked the news that came out a week or 2 ago that he's going to be coming back in a few weeks, which I don't even know if that's been actually completely 100% confirmed, but I hope that's true. At this, a little peek behind the curtain, I was actually a bit surprised about this, but it's the truth. Coach Andrew, following the draft, after we had already made our trade, I think after the first week or something, he actually reached out to me and he wanted to trade. He wanted to make a trade for Bell back to him, and he said he was going to basically give me back, some of the picks and stuff that we had done. So I didn't do that. I was surprised just because obviously he's not in a place you would think where he's really competing this year. But I don't know. But anyway, I decided not to do that. I have offered Bell to a few other coaches. I think I offered him for a few receivers and just didn't pan out. So as of right now, I have him and I'm hanging on to him. And like you said, both him and Cook could almost be like those deadline additions to my team and I didn't really need to make a trade for him. So that's the hope for me. All right.
Well, you made a trade for Bell though. You gave up enough for Bell, I think.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, like, I'm not trading him now for him. I already have him. But yeah, you're right.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
All right, cool. There is Derek's 12 number 1 through 12 power rankings. Hate them, love them. You wanna disagree. You wanna kiss him on the forehead, thanking him. Whatever you want to do is up to you. Feel free to tweet or post or do what you'd like. But there it is, and may mercy have rung upon it. We're gonna move on to the next section here.
Now, let's take a look into the future with next week's matchups.
All right, we're heading into week 6. And let's kind of go through the games that are coming up here this week. Things are starting to get interesting. So in my personal vote for game of the week is going to be the 3-2 Darnold Palmers going up against the 3-2 Rockdalian Senators. These are a couple of 3-2 teams who are right in the thick of things. We just went over a little bit how we feel they are, kind of ranked within the realm of the league here. I think this is a big game for both teams. Obviously one jumps up to 4-2, the other goes down to 500 and is still obviously very much in it. But a win is, I think, big for both squads. Would you agree here, Derek?
Yeah, I think this is definitely the one I have earmarked as the number one watch for this week. I agree.
Yeah, and this is actually going to be Coach Will's 200th regular season game played in the Dynasty. So congratulations to Will. Yes, he has been in the league since, I think, the second season here. We'll talk to Will later on about that, though. The 4-1 Jive Turkeys are going up against the 1-4 Valvinus. So that's interesting. We just talked about this, that Jive Turkeys could kind of be the worst 4-1 team, and Valvinus could be the best 1-4 team. So we'll see how that translates into them playing each other.
Upset alert, upset alert, upset alert.
4-1 Primetime is going up against 3-2 Virginia Beach Warriors. This is actually another good game, and it very well could be kind of a game of the week here as well. Primetime is won the last couple games. Actually, I think both teams have won their last couple of games, so both coming in kind of hot, and we'll see what happens. Derek, are you
going to decide? I think that my third rank in the my power rank last week.
Yes, there it is. Yeah, and hey, I'll tell you what, Derek, we have a positioning open, so if you want to make this a weekly or bi-weekly little write up on the page, feel free to do your power rankings. No one's going to stop you.
I think I might stick you guys up on that. That'd be fun.
All right. Are you going to be wearing any type of commemorative patch or doing anything special for your game here up against the 0-5 Make America Gronk Again, Derek? Because I'm sure you're fully aware that this is your 50th game played here in the Dynasty.
Wow, I did not realize that. It's also the first time I'm essentially going against a namesake of my own, as Make America Gronk Again, and my Joey Safe Fiesta is because of Mr. Gronkowski.
Ah, that's right. That's crazy. I didn't even realize that. That's funny. Yeah, that's right. The both team names are and you know what? So hopefully Gronk will play a part in your team, although neither one of you have him, but you have Brady, right? So you that kind of factors. And are you going to be playing Brady or Mahomes?
They're playing each other. I mean, I think I'm going. I don't even know. I have Mahomes in right now. I'm kind of 50-50 on which one I start.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. I mean, they're both awesome, but just the fact that you have to make that decision, and then if you're wrong, and then if it costs you a win or a loss, like, it can just be frustrating. But
that would be good.
The 4-1 Riverdale Scoopers are going up against the 2-3 Boston Loggers. I'm actually 8-2 all time against the Loggers, and the Loggers are feisty. As we talked about earlier, they're a feisty squad. They're kind of ankle biters, and I'm hoping not to trip up against them, but we'll see what happens with that. And then lastly, we got the two 1-4 teams going up against each other, the Milltown Killers and Golden Taint. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say it. I think whoever loses this game is out of it. So that's just my personal opinion.
Eric, I'm going to go on record as saying they're both out of it.
There it is. There it is. Well, Derek, I would like to thank you for being on this show. We're actually going to part ways here because we're going to get on the line with a couple of other coaches. So I'm going to kind of take the reins and talk to them. But I want to thank you for being on the show here. And where can the bastards listening to this show tweet you if they want to complain about where you ranked them or any other thing that they may want to communicate you with?
Feel free to drop me an email at idon'tcare.com and gmail.com, and that's my please come at me. I'm Steve Joyce Fiesta. Tweet at me, love me, come at me.
Excellent.
Catch me outside.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Derek, for co-hosting here. The show isn't over, listeners, but thanks again, Derek, and good luck the rest of the way.
Hey, thanks, Eric. Good luck, everybody.
Now it is time. Fucking right, it's time. So grab your balls and let's go. Coaches interview. Here we fucking go.
Okay, now here on the Dynasty Podcast Coach Hotline, we have ourselves, I think, a slightly very angry, but probably hopefully optimistic and hopefully a little bit calmed down from the outcome of what occurred last matchup. Coach of the 3-2 Rockdalian Senators, Coach Will DeYoung. Coach, how is everything going over there in the Senators' headquarters?
Oh, not gonna lie, little frustration over the last 2 weeks, but still feeling really positive. A lot to feel positive about. I mean, with the team, with the roster, with the depth. So definitely frustration a little, but still positive.
Sure, yeah. I mean, you started off 3-0, came out of the gate hot, and you lost your last 2 games. I think you lost to me, I believe, a couple weeks ago, and then last week you lost a nail biter, kind of a low scoring game between you and Jive Turkeys. I thought you had it in the bag. I mean, you had Breeze, Kamara, Jordan Reed,
Yeah.
So you had a bunch of guys going on Monday night. You only really needed 30 points or something from those 3 guys. And I mean, shit. Usually Breeze will put that up himself, or Kamara. Never mind.
And
go ahead.
And he almost did. And I put a phone call into Sean Payton already just to find out what the hell Kamara did. Because if you look at his game log over the last 4 weeks, he's just been an absolute stud. And I don't know if it's just, hey, let's get Mark Ingram a bunch of touches before the bye week, which is the only rationale I can come up with, and really give Kamara a little bit of a break. It was a little frustrating this week, especially considering the fact that Ingram is sitting on my bench.
Yeah, and Kamara, you obviously have to be extremely happy with the decision you made in trading for him and then subsequently keeping him. A lot of people, fantasy gurus and analysts out there, thought he was going to kind of decline from last year and kind of come back down to earth, but he stuck his middle finger up at that and just was, it's been awesome for you. He's the number 2 running back right now in fantasy. I mean, but other than last week, obviously, where out of nowhere he didn't do much, and Mark Ingram, who returned, seemed to, be the primary ball carrier. But again, maybe that's due to the fact that, Ingram's fresh, Kamara might be going into they're both going into the bye week. Now you have Ingram as well. So, I mean, what are you looking at doing going forward? I mean, are you maybe going to be playing them both, or kind of more going with Kamara and Ingram only, maybe when needed with bye weeks and things like that, or kind of what's your plan with that?
Yeah, it's probably going to be we'll see how it goes, but definitely when he was drafted initially, it was a little bit of the thought process of potential to make a trade. Also, bye weeks certainly were going to come into play. But certainly, if both of those players are going to, perform and perform at a high level, and we can, get the right points per week out of them, I mean, there might be no real reason not to start both of them.
Yeah, Yeah, certainly they have the offense, in order to, do that, I would think. Will, from a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the hardest, how hard do you want to punch Amari Cooper in the nuts?
Yeah.
I need a number.
That's a 10.
10, there it is. I mean, what the hell? Guy is like,
but here's the problem is I can't, he can't throw the ball to himself. And that's the problem, is that he can't throw the damn ball to himself, Eric.
I mean, Carr isn't terrible, and he's just so inconsistent. Like, I don't blame you. You kind of benched him recently, and, there were a couple games where he did a lot, on your bench, and then there's other games where he sucks. I don't know. I don't know what his deal is, but he's certainly one of the more frustrating players. Now, you have the number one passing attack right now. You got Matt Ryan on your bench, who's going to be starting this week with Breeze on his bye. And then you got a guy like Leonard Fournette as well, who's been banged up. You haven't even really been able to use him much. So, assuming he comes back, to full health at some point, and, you got the Breeze-Ryan combo at quarterback. I mean, I'm looking at your team, and your team certainly looks glorious on paper. That being said, I know it's always a fluid situation and on trying to better your team. But right now, you got to feel fairly confident with how things are going, even though you lost the last 2 games.
Yeah, no, I think without a doubt, I think it's definitely going to be a tough week this week with a lot of guys on bye, with a good chunk of the team on bye, but, certainly remain positive. Matt Ryan, totally capable. James White, I think, just is a, beast for the Patriots right now,
Yep.
Kind of filling in nicely for Leonard Fournette. And then, I think it's just going to be a little bit of a receiver-heavy lineup this week, but, really still feel good about the team overall.
Yeah, I mean, you're going up against who are you going up against? You're going up against the Darnell Palmer. That's right. We deem that as the game of the week. Actually, you're 3-2. They're 3-2. They've scored quite a bit of points. So yeah, it's a kind of a big game, big deal to get to 4-2 versus drop down to 3-3. So kind of a big game for you, and not to even add to the bigness of the game. This may be news to you. This is actually your 200th career regular season game played in the Dynasty. So congratulations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm so psyched to hear that.
Yes, you've been in the league since the 2nd season, and this is your 200th game. Now, for the new players in the league, and serve maybe a reminder to the folks who've been here for a while, not to bring up some negativity here for you, Will, but I gotta do my job here as a media interviewer. You're championship-less. We all know that, and it's been far too long. And obviously you hope that this is the year. Do you feel different than what you felt the last, say, 13 years prior to this season?
It's really hard to, because I've had a bunch of years where I've been middle of the pack, competitive, but just missing the playoffs. I've had years where I have I've been the dumpster of the league, and then I've had a couple good years. So it's, I feel like I've seen it all, and being 4 weeks into the season, it's really hard to get overly positive or overly negative, unfortunately. So it's just kind of not getting too out of control here on that. I mean, God, I remember 4 years ago, I had the highest scoring team in the league.
Yeah.
And I didn't make the playoffs because I lost to the high score of the week for the last 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
So it just really shows that, anything can happen in this league.
Yeah. Well said. We'll let you go. Lastly, I wanted to just we talked to Derek, who's co-hosting this show here with me up until this point. But I wanted to just get your take, obviously being one of probably the most veteran of coaches other than myself here. Obviously, this season so far, correct me if I'm wrong, has been drama-free, has been, nobody's throwing out insults. We got no possible fist fights. We got I think the large part in that is with the people that got kicked out of this league, with no names, but I think we know who we're talking about. That being said, Will, how are things going from that end of things with you? Are you enjoying the league, the drama-free, we're all just competing, we're having fun, or do you miss any of that?
Well, I mean, not gonna lie, generally being, where I'm located in the southern portion of our dynasty footprint, actually, I'm no longer the southernmost portion, am I?
No, actually, yeah, you're not. We got Paul from Virginia Beach, and we also, I think Fernando's actually in Texas, but you're in Connecticut, so close enough.
So yeah, but so I've been pretty far removed from a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I gotta say, it feels pretty good not to have some of that stuff kind of looming over us. It just kind of was becoming too much of a distraction. So while I didn't mind it, didn't feel I was too much in line with the banter. It's definitely good to be without it at this point.
Well, Will, thank you again for being on the show. I wish you the best of luck here this season, and good luck in the game of the week against the Darnell Palmers. And we shall talk soon. Thank you.
Thanks. Go take it easy, bud.
All right, next up here on the Coach's Hotline here on the Dynasty Podcast, we have ourselves coach of the 4-1 in current Central Division leading Jive Turkeys, Coach Greg Ward. Greg, thank you for being on the show.
Hello. Good evening.
All right. So, first and foremost, you should feel a little bit privileged in the fact that you're even here with us, because you won a little poll that I put there on the league homepage in order to be on the show. I just couldn't decide myself on who to have between you and Paul, Virginia Beach Warriors, so I kind of left it up to the league, and I think only like 5 people voted. I was one of them. You were probably one of them. I'm guessing maybe Paul was one of them. So I don't know who the other 2 people were, but you won 3-2. Actually, I think the last time I checked, it was 3-3 technically, but as of yesterday, when the polls closed, it was 3-2. So hopefully, Paul doesn't call for a revote or anything like that. But how does that feel, first and foremost?
Well, it feels like my string of good luck has continued because, as probably everybody in the league knows, my 4-1 record is nearly a factor of good luck. So I feel like I'm here, and that factor is continuing.
Well, I mean, we maybe when you listen back to this show, you'll hear that Derek is the coach of Yo Soy Fiesta. Him and I have co-hosted this show up until this point, and we did go over the power rankings. We went over a bunch of stuff, and that was one thing we did kind of respectfully talk about, and the fact that your team may be the benefactor of a little bit of good luck. You guys do have, I think, the easiest strength of schedule so far, but you know what? Fantasy is a big part of luck. We've gone over that before on this show in several times in years past, as far as the fantasy gods and how much you control and things like that. So that's actually a good little segue. I want to ask you, Greg, if you had to put a number on it, like percentage-wise, how much would you say luck actually contributes to your success in fantasy?
Well, so I think the factor probably goes up as the season goes on. So in week 5, it's probably maybe 30%, 40%.
Yeah.
But by the end of the year, it's probably a lot higher than that because of all the injuries that can happen to a particular team.
Yeah.
You know what, though? That's probably mitigated by the fact that eventually things probably even out in terms of points against for your opponents. So maybe it doesn't increase as much as I originally thought. So it's probably in the 30-40% range, luck versus skill and preparation.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I've written articles about this, but I feel that there's a little bit of a difference between short term and long term when it comes to fantasy luck and your skill to it. I think like on a per game basis, like this week going into week 6, how much is luck involved in this one matchup? I would say it's higher than it is, say, if you look back at, say, your 5-year record in the league. So
yeah.
So, like short-term matchup to matchup based, I'd say it's, maybe even closer to 50%. You say 30, 40, right around there. But in general, if you're, look at like your whole season or maybe your last, 3 years or something like that, I think that your skill in fantasy does kind of equivalate a little bit more than it would from a matchup to matchup or even a season to season base. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing you could say about a team's performance, or maybe even a better example is a baseball team. Any team can probably win 5 or 6 games or even 7 games in a week, but over the course of a full season, the true talent sort of plays itself out, and you get a better accurate reflection of who's putting in the time and better prepared.
Which is why the Red Sox are obviously way better than the Yankees, and it was proven. I saw your tweets, by the way.
That was pretty sweet last night. I had a tough time falling asleep, actually, after the game.
Yeah, I had a hernia, so it was definitely nerve-wracking. But it was very well worth it, and on we go to the ALCS. But anyway, I digress. So the Jive Turkeys. So you're actually going. Let's see, you're going up against the Val Venus this week, and it's funny because we talked earlier in the show about how you may be one of the luckiest 4-1 teams in the league, and Val Venus may be one of the unluckiest 1-4 teams ever in the league. So
yeah, for sure.
You guys are, going up against each other, so we'll see how that plays itself out. It doesn't look like you have many guys on buys this week, if any, so that's good that you pretty much have your whole team ready to go. You did just make a pickup to get Alfred Morris, where it looks like you're playing him in your flex. So, I mean, Todd Gurley's been absolutely, as advertised, number 1 player in fantasy for running backs. How are you feeling going into this week?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything more from Gurley. He's been probably even more amazing than I would have expected. So I'm a little hesitant, like almost waiting for the other shoe to drop, either a minor injury or him to, he can't possibly continue to score 2-3 touchdowns every week. So I kind of need the rest of my team to step it up because he's been carrying me so far. I'm fortunate to have the 4 wins, but he's been a huge part of that, and Kirk Cousins has been as well.
Yeah.
But my wide receivers have been pretty bad. So if I can just get 1 to 2 touchdowns out of the 3 wide receivers every week, that would be enough to help keep me afloat. But as far as this week, I think I'm about 11-point underdog. So I kind of need some guys to beat their projections for once, because for the most part, it seems like most of them have underperformed.
Yeah, and a guy like Gronk too. I mean, he's. I'm assuming you're probably hoping that he hasn't been terrible. Well, I guess you could make an argument he has been terrible from a fantasy standpoint, but especially where you drafted him and what his expectations were. I'm sure that's a guy that you're looking to hopefully explode, especially on Sunday night against the Chiefs, which many would think would be a high-scoring affair.
Yeah, so I got a couple things I'm hoping for. Number one, like you said, they're facing the Chiefs are pretty bad against tight ends. And number two, he's kind of inadvertently facing up against Kelsey. So I'm kind of hoping he and Brady kind of want to show that those two are just as good as Mahomes and Kelsey.
Yeah.
So it becomes a little personal during the game, and they try and focus on Gronk a little more. But yeah, I mean, I picked him in the second round, and I just looked at the draft results tonight, and I could identify maybe 5 or 6 different running backs and at least 10 different wide receivers who at this point I think have completely outperformed Gronk. He had a touchdown in week 1, but hasn't really performed very well since then. So I'm really kind of hoping that his ankle injury is minor. The almost week and a half since their last Thursday night game has given him some time to rest up, and he'll come back and be strong for me in the second half. Yeah,
well, as a owner of the other guy there, Travis Kelce, that you mentioned, I'm hoping that there is a little bit of a Gronk versus Kelce showdown on Sunday night. I'll take that. I think lastly, Greg, you've been active on the league chat, and the other day you were kind of throwing it out there like if you were just having a little conversation with yourself this entire time. I have to say, I see them all. There's a couple that, I just read and I, either chuckle or I don't say anything, but I think a couple people may have kind of responded or whatever, but for the most part, you're certainly doing your due diligence to try to create a little bit of banter there on the chat. I don't want to force anything. I'm the commissioner, so I'm in a little bit of a different position. I'm not going to tell people, hey, you have to do this, right? But I'm just curious, in general, how you feel in the league's going thus far. I know that I promoted the fact that we're very, not only competitive, but also interactive as well. And I hope, between at least this podcast and the other one we had, and I'm actually going to be sending out the first newsletter gazette out this week between the weekly write-ups I do and Twitter and things like that. I didn't it wasn't false advertisement, was it? I'm a little concerned about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of expecting a little more banter, and I don't mind talking to myself and entertaining myself, and if people are not offended by me just having fun at my own expense or even somebody else's from time to time, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll just have to start, and I've had a few private chats with a few individuals, not like on the public site for our league. So, it hasn't been completely devoid of conversation, but it'd be great if some people sort of responded to me, and maybe I'll just have to start singling some people out and talking some smack, and I'll probably lose as a result, but whatever, as long as we're all having fun, and that's the end. That's the end game.
Right. Yeah. No, I hear you. It's always one of those things. At least, again, just speaking for myself as the commissioner, I've always liked having banter and trash talk, and that's actually why in years past, and maybe we'll get back to doing this again. We've had mid-season hangouts, we've had live drafts, we've had things like that because I find it difficult sometimes to have trash talking and banter electronically and it's certainly possible. It's just I just like I said, I don't want to force anyone into doing it, and then in large part, a lot of us don't know each other yet either, so maybe that plays a part as we get to kind of play with each other more and learn more about each other. Maybe I'll eventually meet each other and things like that. So, but I appreciate your diligence in in doing that, and so that's pretty much it. I wanted to thank you here for being on the show. Wish you good luck here this week in your game against Val Venus. Wish you good luck the rest of the season. Maybe we'll talk again, and yeah, that's about it. So thanks again, Greg.
All right, yeah, thanks for the opportunity, and good luck this weekend.
We interrupt this broadcast to remind you that you can get all of the latest Dynasty updates by following the Riverdale Gazette on Twitter. The Riverdale Gazette Twitter page. Don't be left behind.
All right, well, in closing, I'm probably actually going to be sending the Riverdale Gazette along with this show in the same email. So I hope everyone enjoys that. For you veteran coaches, you'll see it's a little bit more scaled down due to the fact that a big portion of the Gazette is typically covering our live draft, which obviously it wasn't live this year, so it was a little different. But I hope you all still enjoy it, and if you have any suggestions on what you would like to see in a future Gazette, or even better, if you have anything that you personally would like to add to the Gazette, if you'd like to write an article or do something that you can just send to me and I'll slap it in. By all means, that would be fine as well. So, yeah, that pretty much covers it here. I would like to thank Coach Derek for co-hosting with me, and thank you to Coach Will and Coach Greg for being on the show. If you would like to hear and want to, or if you like what you hear and would want to co-host with me in a future podcast, let me know. And if you have any suggestions on what you'd like to hear in a future show, certainly let me know. But otherwise, for now, this is Commissioner Eric Costanza. Good luck to everyone this week here in Week 6 and going forward. Till next time, over and out.
Thank you for listening to the Dynasty Podcast. To hear more podcasts in your ear holes, subscribe to the show on YouTube. Or don't. The choice is yours.